Today, let's talk about air. Air is always around us, and it...
Excuse me, perhaps I missed something, but I don't see any air.
Look, I'm giving an important talk. Go back to sleep.
But I'm a watchdog, and if there's air all around you, I'd like to see it, Master. After all, I'm your faithful servant, and I must be aware of any dangers that may come upon you.
Oh, get off.
Especially if it's something like air that can surround you. So just tell me what this air looks like, so I can be ready for it.
Air is invisible. Well, you can't really see it.
What? Well, that's even worse. It could be anywhere. Don't worry, I'll protect you.
Quiet! Air is not a monster. Air is our friend. In fact, we need air so much that we can't live without it.
Huh? Well, if we can't see air, how do we know it's there?
Look, it's there. It's always been there. If it wasn't always there, there wouldn't be any life, period.
How do you know it's always been there, especially if you can't see the stuff?
I know that if air wasn't there from the beginning, we wouldn't be here now. We weren't the first living beings, you know. There were our fathers.
Fetch.
And grandfathers.
I said fetch.
No.
And their great-great-grandfathers.
Fetch.
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Thanks, Uncle Bill.
And in order for life to go on and on, it needed air. That's how I know that air's always been there.
If you were talking about bone, that's different. Bones you can see. Bones you can taste. Bones you can chew.
Now I know why dogs are man's best friend. Compared to dogs, we're brilliant. Look, my friend, air is not bones. Air is invisible. You can't see it. But take my word for it, it's always there.
Sure. It even comes through doors and windows when they're closed. No wonder we're called man's best friend. Without us, he'd be helpless.
Well, okay. Let's try a little experiment. Hold your nose and cover your mouth so nothing gets in. Now, see how long you can stay like that.
Okay.
That was something you couldn't do, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You couldn't breathe, could you?
Yeah.
Well, what do you think it was that you needed?
Well, how should I know? I'm just a dog. I don't know everything.
You needed air. Without it, you're dead.
Oh. Well, to tell the truth, I never thought about it before.
That's the nice part about breathing. You don't have to think about it. Your body does it automatically. In fact, right this second, our lungs are filling with air and feeding oxygen to our hearts, which, as you know, are always beating, like motors. That supplies the rest of our bodies by pumping the blood and oxygen all around to muscles and brain and bones so that we can stay alive. All we have to do is make sure we let only air into our noses.
Grant.
And put only food and air into our mouths.
Oh, yummy.
Because breathing is so easy, you can eat at the same time and do it on one leg or with your hands tied behind you or with your eyes closed. In fact, you can sing and talk and laugh
Oh. Wise guy?
and cry. You can even sleep because your body never forgets.
Okay. Our bodies never forget. But what if the air forgets?
Now, don't worry about that. The air is always there.
Oh, well, where does it come from?
Air is partly made up of oxygen.
Oxygen. Oh, yeah, you mentioned that word before. And what's oxygen? Is it that invisible, too?
Yes, for us, the most important part of air. But before we get into that, I want to see if you can understand what happens when we breathe. Here's a chance to use your imagination. Let's say that you can see the oxygen like a pink cloud. Now, imagine a simple, ordinary person.
Can't it be a dog?
No, I doubt if there are many dogs watching the program. Now then, the man meets the air. He breathes it in. Oh.
Hey, how come it's a different color?
That's because their lungs remove the oxygen and let out what they don't need together with another gas.
Oh, you mean like the exhaust from a car?
Sort of. But the exhaust we breathe out helps other kinds of life. It's called carbon dioxide.
Carbon dioxide?
It's food for plants.
Yummy.
Grass,
Yum, yum.
trees, and bushes.
Yum.
In fact, I'll tell you something that not many dogs know. You know that plants live on carbon dioxide. But if you gave them a little bit more, not much more, they'd grow nearly twice as fast.
Gee.
Now, when we burn wood and oil and coal and natural gas, huge amounts of carbon dioxide are released into the air. So plants and trees are getting more carbon dioxide and are growing faster.
Well, what do they do with the carbon dioxide after they breathe it?
Recognize the color?
Hey, it looks like oxygen.
That's right. Oxygen is made by plants.
Oh, great.
Not so great. The problem is it's almost all used for decay, and we don't get any of that oxygen.
Oh, but where does our oxygen come from?
Well, it all started with sunlight.
Sunlight?
Now, millions and millions of years ago, before there were any men or dogs, there was vegetation, green stuff, a lot of it. And all that vegetation produced an enormous amount of oxygen, which began building up in the air, all around the Earth. Since there were no animals around to use it for breathing, it kept building up for millions of years. And then when man and dog appeared, oxygen was there for them to breathe. In fact, there was such a big surplus of oxygen, we're still living on that today. And the big danger is that we're using it up faster and faster all the time. And we're not giving the plants a chance to supply more oxygen. Do you remember? I told you that the plants grow faster if they're given extra CO2, carbon dioxide. Well, if they do get too much extra, they'll stop growing and die. And not only that, did you know that millions of trees are needlessly destroyed each year? And think of all the smaller plants that are being killed. And every day, miles of land are paved over and covered by buildings and parking lots. And so, even though they only give us a tiny bit of oxygen, the more trees and plants we have, the longer our oxygen surplus will last. A long time ago, man didn't have to worry. The little bit of smoke from his fire was taken care of by nature and by the rain, and it vanished into the soil and into rivers and lakes. But one day, he discovered iron.
Hey, look at that pile of stuff there. Wonder what that is. Oh, my goodness, look at that. Hey, there's a funny-looking thing. Gee, look, I just discovered a pointy thing. And too bad there isn't a use for it.
Ouch! Is this yours?
You know, I just discovered the spear.
I just discovered war. I'll give you this, hey, I'll give you this meat for that spear.
Now I've invented trade. And with fire and this funny rock, I can make lots of things to trade. Knives, pots, jewelry, armor, wheels, rails, engines.
With steel for machines and high buildings and shelter, cities got bigger and bigger. With all those people in one area, all the factories and cars, nature couldn't keep up. So now, when it rains, the rain picks up all the bad chemicals and gases, and they end up harming our lakes and rivers and the land. And, of course, the fruits and vegetables that grow from the land. Then when our farm animals eat those fruits and vegetables, it gets into them. And then when we eat meat, why, it gets into us. And it ruins our buildings and cars and the lawns, too. Now, where was I?
Gee, I think,
Yes, I remember. The surplus of air. If it lasts, so will we.
Gee, I guess that's why I like trees so much. I hope there are enough plants to go round.
Well, there are lots in the oceans, too, which also give us a little bit of oxygen.
Oh, I hope we never run out of oxygen.
Well, we're not supposed to, as long as we take care of what we have. But there are lots of things around which are putting gases into the air that don't disappear so easily. And these, well, they aren't very good.
Because they won't let the sunlight in?
That's right. Hey, you're not so dumb after all. Let's take a ray of sunlight. It travels millions of miles through space. And when it reaches Earth, one of two things might happen. One, pollution from cars, trucks, fires, and motors is building up around the Earth, still letting the sunlight in. But once it's in, it gets trapped, and the Earth gets hotter and hotter. It will be good for plants, like a greenhouse. Scientists call this the greenhouse effect. The temperature right here in Ontario could get as high as 150 degrees. And palm trees, banana plants, and oranges and grapefruits will grow here.
What? Really?
But most animal life, including you and me, will die.
Oh.
And since no one will be around to pollute the air, well, it'll get fresh and clean again.
Oh, but no one around to breathe it.
And the second thing, volcanoes, fires, and factories put a lot of stuff in the air, particles and dust. All this stuff would get between the sun and the Earth and absorb our sun's rays so they couldn't reach Earth. Ice would build up over Ontario as much as 2 miles high. This is called the ice house effect. Now, let's make believe that you are a worker. You work all day putting up with such terrible smells and then leaving for home. The outside's no better. The skin tingles, the eyes smart, the nose clogs, and even your car falls apart because the dirty air is being trapped over the cities. Now, this is called an inversion. An inversion means that a thick layer of cool air moves over the city and stops. All the warm, polluted, dirty air from the city rises up and is trapped by the cool, heavier air. So, the dirty air piles up and gets thicker and thicker in the city. And will keep getting worse until the wind blows it all away. Most of all, it makes everyone feel very uncomfortable.
Oh, boy. Fresh air.
Come and get it. One side, Bob. Try a nose full of me, Pops.
See? If we aren't careful, we'll run out of air and have to build bubbles to make our own air to survive. Not much fun, though. Imagine having to wear a spacesuit to survive here on Earth. No fun at all. We couldn't even sit down. fish, there wouldn't be any fish. Or walk in the woods, and no trees either.
And you say this pollution is getting worse?
That's right.
Oh, yeah, I can smell it. And you say that it's made by cars and airplanes and factories?
That's right.
Dogs didn't invent cars or airplanes or factories. Did you know that, Master?
Yes, yeah, I know that.
Sure he does. Man invented them all. Dogs need air to live, too. I suppose you know that.
Yes.
Then leave my air alone. We dogs aren't stupid enough to pollute the very air we leave to live in. Why don't you use your heads and figure a way to clean the air after you dirty it? I don't see why we dogs have to suffer for man's mistakes. Fellow dogs, it's up to you. Let's clean up. Cork up those factories. Bag all that airplane pollution. Tie a knot in those automobile exhaust pipes. Write to your government representative. Whatever you do, do it fast while there's still some air left, because man won't do anything about it. Imagine making machines that leave dirt everywhere. That's why no dog ever invented the automobile. It doesn't make sense what man is doing to himself and us dogs. Man seems to be so smart and most of the time shows good common sense. But what happened? Now, their attitudes are all wrong. They've forgotten about the most important things in their lives. Air. It's incredible. Men run factories and build yucky machines, but it's not the machines. It's the men who build them and run them. Foolishness. We know people have died because of the rotten air they make. Man can make laws and march and holler, but only a change in all man's attitudes will do it. Fellow dogs, right? Well, let's hope he has enough sense to listen to us. Spread the word. Man must change his attitude. All of them. I mean, what's more important than breathing?
Water. 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 Why all this fuss about water? Do we need it that much? Well, we do have a lot of it. We seem to like drinking water more than doing anything else with it. Even though we use it a lot to wash dirt away. And to dump stuff into.
Oh, clean now.
Because the water just washes all that stuff away. It may float away, but it does not disappear. It all ends up in the oceans. And because ocean water is not good to drink, it doesn't seem to matter to us if it gets dirty.
Water.
Some fish and animals not only drink it, but can't live without it. This ocean life is very important to us. In fact, as the world population increases, we will likely depend on the oceans and lakes for much of our food. So, it's very important to all of us that we keep the oceans clean so that fish and plants will stay strong and healthy. Because if they stay healthy, so will we. Even now, we get clothing, oils, vitamins, minerals, not to mention fishing as a form of recreation, flour for bread, and medicines.
Yeah, too salty.
While it is true that we do not drink ocean water, that's right. Rainwater you can drink. Now, if the ocean suddenly dried up, you'd have a pretty tough time surviving. You'd have hardly any rain.
Huh? How come?
There'd be hardly any drinking water.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? The oceans give us water?
Not only that, but some of our oxygen, too. Millions of tons of water evaporates from the oceans every day. That water vapor goes into the air. When it becomes concentrated enough, clouds are formed. And when wind blows the clouds over the land, and when they get too heavy, they break open and rain all over everything.
Oh dear, I left the windows open.
Cleaning things and filling holes and valleys, which is how we get our lakes and rivers. And when it falls on top of mountains, it freezes into ice and snow. And when it melts, it creates rivers and streams. And eventually, everything empties back into the oceans. And speaking of no water, if we took it all away, you would not look like you look, since 67% of you is made up of the stuff. Your eyes would disappear, since they're nearly all water. Your head, 1/3 the size.
Hey, what the... Help!
Your blood would be powder. Your heart would have to be 100 times as big in order to pump it all around the body. Walking and bending would be impossible, since there'd be nothing left to lubricate your joints. You couldn't live without water. And without water, you wouldn't have things like soup, baths, sailboats, porridge,
Good.
watermelons,
It's empty.
faucets,
Burp.
plumbers,
Oh, well, no work today.
pop, squirt guns, fish,
But on the other hand,
sweat,
Hot.
puddles,
Oh dear, my new dress is ruined.
umbrellas, wishing wells, gargles, and fountain pens. A cool glass of water, bathing suits, frogs,
How I long for the good old days.
ice cubes, skiing, snowmen, ocean boat trips, beach parties, community swims, all ports of the world would be lonely and poor. Millions of sailors and fishermen would be looking for work. And last but not least, water is where you came from.
You mean the stork didn't bring me?
Water is where all of life came from.
Gee, even my boss?
Every living thing. You see, about 500 million years ago, life began in the seas. And many forms of life evolved from the first simple form. Eventually, some of them tried living on the land.
Oh, gee whiz.
Oh, boy.
And finally, after 500 million years, man.
Hi.
Man who had all the equipment for survival outside of water.
Grab. Jump. Run. Sniff. Listen. Look.
But there weren't many men around then, and so as he went about his business each day, hunting so he could eat, he had little trouble finding pure, fresh water from springs, ponds, little creeks, rivers, and lakes, too. Almost all of it pure, clear, and clean. But then there were more men and problems. Metal and glass. It wasn't so bad when a man had his own garbage to deal with, because in those days, water could clean itself. If a man threw his garbage away, it'd decay in the water or be eaten by fish. The rest would be filtered by sand and gravel, and so the water would be clean and clear again. Now there are millions of men using the water from lakes and rivers to drink and wash and for industry and to dump garbage into. Plastic and cans and bottles which won't decay. Water can't clean itself, and man isn't helping. He's wasting his water. He sits back and misuses it. Except that he still needs water, because when man takes a drink, it goes a long way. It cools the body inside and out by keeping the temperature inside your body just right. By making it possible for your blood to move around your body. Your eyes moving. Your joints fluid. Cleans your pores. Keeps your nose oiled. If you don't have that water, your body will react. And if there were no water, any seeds you tried to plant would shrivel and die, because all things that grow need water.
Oh, yum.
Oh, good.
To carry food around all the parts of that living thing and to keep them cool. Otherwise, it will be impossible to live. And, of course, water is what keeps everything alive and happy. Almost all things have water in them and actually need water or they wouldn't be the same thing. Even things like rocks and sand. If we took all the water out of a rock, it wouldn't just be a dry rock, it'd be a pile of dust. Even things like salt and sugar contain lots of water. Without water, the tiny crystals would quickly become a fine, fluffy powder. Clothing materials such as wool and nylon contain water. If a pair of socks were really, really dry, they'd fall off and crumble to the ground.
Yummy. Yum. Yeah. Yummy. Yum. 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 Yummy. Yum. Boy. Yeah.
Well, we got lots of water, so why worry? I only wish I was in a lake where the water was drinkable. Oh, wow. Oh, hey. Oh. Wow. Whoa. Water.
There's your lake. Drink up.
Why does it taste so terrible?
Imagine what it's like living in it.
Huh?
The water wasn't like that a few years ago. Most of the rivers and lakes are just as impossible to drink from. Insecticides and fertilizer wastes end up in rivers and streams. Cottages throw their sewage in lakes. Garbage from dumps seep through into the water. People taking walks throw things in the water. People start their boats in the water. People on the beaches leave junk to be carried away by the tide. People who dig for oil spill the oil in the water. Entire cities flush their waste into the water. Rain carries dirt and garbage left by people into the water until we finally have garbage and junk in all our rivers and lakes. So when you want a drink of water, it has to be filtered very carefully and expensively. Now, we all know that chemicals and garbage pollute the water. But do you know how?
It kills the plants and fish.
Well, you're partly right. Actually, what happens is that most chemicals and wastes are really good for plants that grow in water. In fact, they're too good. That's the problem. The plants grow so fast that they begin to clog the water. Fish and water birds can't find their food. When the plants die, they sink to the bottom. Here, tiny animals called bacteria go to work. Their job is to break the dead plants down into new soil. But to do this, they need almost all the oxygen there is in the water. So the fish and aquatic animals not only can't find their food, but they die because there's no oxygen for them to breathe. So with all the dead water plants and animals plus other chemicals, the water becomes bad for humans and unfit to use. Even the water which has become snow or rain is too dangerous to drink. Chemicals and gases in the air mix with snow and rain and fall with it to the ground. And then flow into streams and lakes.
Yeah. Sure don't taste like it used to.
And even then, it's not perfect.
Take all this yuck out of the water.
Hey, what did I do? I need the water as much as anyone. I didn't throw this yuck into your water.
Then who did? The fish didn't.
You're darn right I didn't.
The plants didn't.
You kidding?
I should say not.
All the other growing things that need water didn't. Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
Not me.
Well, that leaves,
Me?
you are man, aren't you?
Gee, yeah, of course, but I'm only one man. There are billions of us. You can't go blaming me.
Oh, yeah,
I swear, but I didn't do it.
Hold it, everybody!
Yeah.
Maybe this man is an exception. If he didn't do it, maybe he could help. In fact, if each person did his part, we wouldn't have a problem. You've heard the story of 11 men trying to pull an elephant out of the mud. Another man walked by and the rest hollered at him to help.
Give us a hand.
Not me. There's nothing I can do. You got 11 already.
But just one more man will get him out.
Okay, I'll try. So, you see, one man can do a lot. Go and remind the other men or people or whoever it is that they need water too.
Hey! You! Pardon me. Could I just... About the water... Help! Help! Wrench,
A wrench?
screwdriver, and oil can. Almost ready? Just connect this and tighten that. There, now, finished. Finally finished. Okay, Leroy, get to your post.
Okay, boss.
Are you ready?
Ready?
Ah, here goes.
Woo!
Ah, du lieber, another failure.
Pardon me, Dr. Instep. I've been assisting you in these experiments for several months. They've all ended in failure. You've never once revealed what it is you're trying to accomplish. Don't you think it's time I knew what you were trying to do? I'm beginning to think maybe you're crazy.
Ah, yes. Of course, my son, I'll try to explain. It all began, you see, when I was a student at Openwild Medical School. At that time, I was full of hope for mankind. And I dedicated myself to the care and the salvation of mankind's most valuable possession, the body. I wanted to do everything I could to make sure that wonderful machine would never be destroyed. I threw myself into my studies. Soon I knew all there was to know about bodies, which was more than anyone else, believe me. I was famous. I knew all the answers.
The elbow is made up of 4 bones and an L-shaped cartilage lump, blah, blah, etc. The body consists of a lump called the body proper. A bump on the top of the lump is the control tower, and 4 flexible attachments, 2 for mobility and 2 for grabbing, etc., and so on.
However, the people didn't really want to know all that stuff. They was only interested in having fun. You see, they took their bodies for granted. And they made fun of me. But I wouldn't despair.
Ah, well, it doesn't matter.
I still had faith in mankind. I quit the doctoring and decided to become a song and dance man. No, I wasn't running away. I was merely trying another approach to reach mankind. Since I was extremely gifted in all things, plus having determination, I soon became pretty popular. I was invited to perform on a television special of a very famous personality.
Hey, come on my show.
So famous, in fact, that millions of people watched that show. At last, my big chance to reach a vast number of people. I was ready, believe me, I was ready for that moment.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have here a really big star.
For the very first time in public, I was going to sing a special song.
He's going to do a special song for us.
A song that would make everybody realize what a wonderful machine each of them had.
A song for all of us.
A song about the body.
So, without further ado, here he is.
Oh, your body is your friend. It can stretch and it can bend. Paint a door, wash a floor, or climb a tree. It can see a billion stars. It can wash 100 cars. It can smile and grin and wink and laugh. Tee hee. Tap a toe, toe a line, say a no, no a pine. Follow an instruction. Read a book, book a flight. Have a look, look a flight. Or make an introduction. The body is unique. It can see and hear and speak, and even make a great invention. It can love a little ducky, or drive a great big truckie, or have a good intention. Lift a finger, bite and chew, make a ringer, turn a screw, peel and boil potatoes, have a haircut, do a knee bend, crack a walnut, kiss a girlfriend, pick and squeeze tomatoes. The body is supreme. It can shout and howl and scream when every little thing is going wrong. It can also whisper sweetly and smile and talk discreetly or sing a very happy song. Now, kiddies, this will thrill you from Vancouver to Aurelia. Your body is a glorious machine. It can comfort a lost kitty and oversee a city and take a dirty thing and make it clean. From beginning to the end, your body is your friend. It tells you when it's hot and when it's cold. It lets you pick up stuff and eat and drink enough, and warns you when your joints are getting old. It takes you all around and listens to each sound. Oh my, your body knows a lot. And when it's working well, you can sing and dance and yell, and also take precautions when it's ha, 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 ha. It can drink a glass of water, it can love a baby daughter, it can pat a great big dog or move a log, dig a ditch and scratch an itch, pull a switch and twitch a twitch, or find a foolish female in a farm. From beginning to the end, your body is your friend. Abso-positively, it's the best. It can sing and it can dance, and play and even prance. But now, I think it needs a rest.
Gee, Dr. Instep, that must must have made everyone very aware of their wonderful bodies.
Actually, no, Heinrich, you're wrong. Wrong again. I'm afraid it made matters much worse.
Oh, you mean they didn't like your song?
Oh, no, they loved the song. They loved me. They showered me with gifts and money. I became world famous. Yeah, that's right. And rich. Wow. I had a private estate with 4 cars, a lake with 3 motorboats, motorboat with 3 lakes also, servants.
Time for your dinner, sir.
Including a fantastic cook.
Eat.
Who presented me with superb meals 3 times, 4 times a day even. I bought gadgets of all sorts. All right, I'll take a dozen of those. Electric this, and mechanical those, an automatic these, hydraulic dims, magnoplastic senders, futuristic caresses, and button depressors. In other words, in a short time, I was a mess, a total mess, and I grew lazy. Wow. And fat. And the furthest thing from my mind was my body. Oh, puff and wheeze. If I thought of my body, it depressed me, and so I took to drink. And after that, I took to pills and to medicines. I was a mess, mentally, because of what I did to my own body. Oh, the shame. Not only did I surround myself with all kinds of gadgets, thus encouraging me to use my body less and less, but because of them, I destroyed my lake and forest and the wildlife that lived there because I was careless, let's face it. I always thought there was more where that came from. Uh-oh, fire. Oh, well, there's more where that came from. Shall I tell you something, Morton? When I realized what I had done, I couldn't live with myself. My body was miserable because my environment was miserable. And that's why I turned to all of those crutches that I mentioned earlier. Then I became penniless. And the only way I could get any money was to go on TV and sing my famous and well-loved body song.
Come back on TV, we'll pay you well.
But it just wasn't the same somehow. Oh, the body is your friend. Anyway, everyone laughed at me. I was a joke.
They love you.
I was a total flop. I was a washout. So then I sold all of my possessions and came up here in the mountains to be alone and to think. After a while, I realized the body is not so perfect.
But, Doctor...
What I mean is, Waldo, the body itself may be perfect, but the body's control system, the mind, isn't. The body just doesn't know any better. When the body does something horrible, it's because there's something wrong upstairs. Without the mind, the body is a mindless lump. Oh, it's not completely mindless, you know. It does try sometimes to warn the mind when things aren't going well with it. Everyone is given warnings all the time, but most people ignore the signals. Instead, they take pills and drink all kinds of medicines to make the warnings go away. Isn't that silly, Humphrey? They take pills to get rid of a headache without asking the body why it got the headache in the first place. Maybe the ears are telling the mind that the loud noise is hurting the eardrums, or that maybe the eyes are getting too much light or are reading without enough light. When we get stomach aches or cramps, we drink medicine to make it go away. But do we stop eating the kind of food that caused the problem? No. We ignore what the body is trying to tell us. And so, because of this, I realized that I would have to find another way. I had to make the mind more powerful so that it would not let the body do those stupid things. That's what happened to me. The mind, Irving, controls your whole attitude. And if it has a good attitude, then you will respect your own body. And if you respect your body, you will respect your world. All a body has to do, Humbert, is to make sure that its mind uses common sense, and that will make a good attitude. And the mind, in full control, the body is a fantastic tool. But the most dangerous thing is a body with a careless mind.
Ah, what the heck? Let's pollute. Somebody'll clean it.
The kind of mind that does not think.
More factories, bigger cars, faster boats, lots of guns, plastic food, etc.
The kind of mind that does not remember.
I didn't do anything to pollute anything.
The kind of mind that only thinks of now.
I want more stuff now.
And that's the kind of mind that most of us have, Harold. And that's why the world is such a mess. So, Leroy, that's why I decided to do something about it. I am trying to create an awareness ray. Once a body is hit by this ray, it will not do stupid things, even though the mind gives it a stupid order.
I don't understand, Doctor.
All right, let me give you a simple example, Hugo. Supposing our victim is a man who overeats and never walks anywhere if he can help it.
I see.
So he rarely gets any exercise. Parties all the time, doesn't sleep very much, smokes all the time, drives a car with a bad muffler, pollutes the countryside, sits too close to the TV, never reads. Well, he's pretty far gone. Now, Marvin, with my kind of new improved body wave, his body would refuse in a variety of ways, maybe even adding a few things as reminders. Or take someone else in a social situation. He's with friends who are littering. His body automatically reacts by hollering at them.
What's the matter? You guys crazy?
Or another.
Get your muffler fixed.
And another.
We quit until you stop polluting rivers.
And another.
Everyone decided to leave their cars at home.
And another.
The shoppers refuse to buy non-degradable soaps.
You see, the body struck by my awareness wave will refuse to do anything stupid. Not only to themselves, but also to their environment. And soon the whole world will be clean and fresh, and all the animals, including man, will be strong and healthy again, like it was in the beginning, before we got so careless. You see, Milton, man's mind and his body was developed over many decades to help him adapt to his new environment on land. His mind was fully occupied making the body do sensible things, things to help him survive. And if the mind ever made the body do a stupid thing, it would quite often be fatal. But the mind didn't let man down, and life got easier and easier until man at last could live in harmony with his environment. The mind and the body, working together, invented things that made life much, much easier. Well, at a certain point in history, Max, when man had made even more than he needed, the mind became bored and forgetful and lazy and unaware and began to send dumb orders to the body. And the body did those dumb things. So now there are billions of people who are unaware of the bad orders their minds are giving to their bodies, all causing harm to themselves and their environment. You see, Charlie, when the mind says dumb orders, no matter what, they come back to hurt man's body. Hey, hand me the wire cutter, Cecil. Let's try it once more. You ready?
Okay.
It's working! Relax, relax, Elvin! nerve and it's all over. How do you feel? Tell me, you feel any different?
My name is John, and your lights are on in the kitchen, and no one is there. You're wasting electricity. What's that I see? A candy wrapper on the floor? I don't care if you didn't throw it there. You pick it up. You got dust on your coat. Dust can get into your lungs and cause diseases. Stand up straight. You'll hurt your back if you slouch over all the time. Look at all the paper around here. You wipe your feet, and be careful you don't get a suntan. You better put your dark glasses on. Now, you do as I say.
Well, maybe a little less of the coincidental frequency will be all right. Anyway, we'll try again tomorrow.
The sounds you are listening to are the sounds of nature. Let's face it, noise doesn't do any good. Let's take this peaceful scene. Suppose we introduce a little noise.
What is that terrible racket? It sounds like an elephant caught in a piano. Oh, I can't take any more of this. Oh, my aching ears. What the... Hey! Could you be quiet for a minute? I said quiet. What's the matter? You deaf? Shut up already. Quiet. Stop. Cool it. Desist.
Pardon me.
Do you have to make so much noise?
Toys?
Noise! Noise!
Look, if you're gonna holler and shout, don't stand so close. Get off. Now, what's the trouble?
You'll be making too much noise.
My good rabbit, if anyone is making too much noise, you are.
I wasn't making noise. I was just talking loud.
What was that?
I said I was just talking loud.
It's all the same. It's noise. Noise is noise.
I wanted to communicate to you. Therefore, I talked loud for a very good reason. But you were just making noise for nothing.
Ah, but I have a very good reason for making noise.
I bet.
So I can run my machine.
Oh, yeah? What does your machine do? Does it make anything important?
Yep. It makes earplugs.
But if you didn't make noise in the first place, you wouldn't have to make earplugs.
Oh, you naive rabbit, you. Come here. I'm in the earplug business, right? If there weren't any noise, there wouldn't be any need for my earplugs, right?
Right.
On the other hand, the more noise there is, the more people will buy my earplugs.
But noise bothers people.
Well, when people are bothered by noise, they buy my plugs, right?
Wrong. It's unethical, cheating, a dirty pool, unfair, dastardly.
But my friend, if I don't sell my plugs, I won't have any more work to do. If that happens, oh, no more job. And if I have no more job, I'm doomed. You see, I've got a wife and 6 kids to support. I can't afford to stop.
Come on, Hoppy!
Turn that thing off.
Hi, Dad. What? What's up, Dad?
Pack your toys. We're leaving home.
I don't wanna. No, I don't wanna leave the home.
Quiet. It's too noisy around here. Look, my boy, it's for your own good. If we don't move away from this noisy environment, I'm afraid you'll grow up warped, if you grow up at all.
Why?
Because the most valuable things we possess, the very thing that sets us apart from other animals, will be destroyed. Our ears.
Why, Dad?
Because of noise. Noise will eventually destroy us. We have to move deeper into the dark forest where the noise won't get us.
But Dad, I still don't understand. How can noise destroy us?
Look, kid, you ask too many questions. Trust me, I know. I'm your father. I don't know exactly how it's going to destroy us. I just know. Eat a carrot or something.
But...
I'll tell you how noise will destroy you.
Who are you?
I am a sound wave.
Is that like a water wave?
A sound wave is how sound is able to travel through the air and into your ears.
Huh?
Sound is caused by a vibration, and that vibration travels through the air. The softer the sound, the less it is able to travel. And the louder it is, the faster it travels to your ears.
Like a noise?
Yes, like noise. But noise is too big for its britches. It goes too fast, and that's why it hurts when it hits your eardrums.
Eardrum? What's eardrum?
Gee, for creatures who pride themselves on your ears, you sure take them for granted. The eardrum can be found in the middle ear, deep inside, so that nothing can touch it. It's called an eardrum because it looks like a little drum. It's made of bone with a delicate piece of membrane stretched over it. So when the sound hits the drum, it bounces off and travels to your brain. To tell you what the sound is and where it's coming from.
Wait a minute. Did you say middle ear? Is there another ear inside this one?
Well, actually, your ears are divided into 3 parts. First, there's the outer ear, which comes in many shapes and sizes. The rabbit ear, of course, you know. There's the dog, the mouse, the elephant, the bird, the frog, and, of course, man. While we're at it, let's take a walk into man's ear and see what goes on.
Sure is long.
No, this part is the canal of the outer ear. A good thing to remember is never put anything into it smaller than your elbow. It's a very delicate place.
through. Well, why is this canal so long and narrow?
Well, that's so the sound waves traveling through the ear are forced to travel close together. This way, they are stronger, and it's easier for the eardrum to move them farther.
Father?
Boy, oh boy, you don't know anything about ears. Don't you know anything about ears? Okay, I'm going to show you what a sound wave, has to go through before I'm recognized as a sound. Now, try not to ask too many questions until I finish. After the canal, I hit the eardrum. The eardrum vibrates. And if I'm a low sound, it vibrates slowly. If I'm a high sound, it vibrates fast. Anyway, the vibration helps me to get on this bridge to the inner ear.
A bridge of bones?
That's right. A bridge of 3 bones. The hammer, the anvil, and the stirrup. Each time I move from one to the other, I get stronger and louder, so I can travel into the inner ear. And this is where I turn into electrical energy. And that's how I get to the brain.
Wait a minute. Why do you have to go into the brain?
Well, the brain is where all the sounds go. That's how you can tell what the sounds mean.
You mean you can't tell what the sound is until you think about it?
Well, in a way, when the sound is understood, the brain gives orders to the body so it can react to it. Otherwise, you'd be able to hear, but nothing would make any sense.
Where does it go in the brain?
It goes to the sound department.
Department? Are there departments in the brain?
Sure. Try to think of the brain as a place with a lot of hallways and doors. And the halls are filled with signals zipping up and down, all looking for the right door to go into.
Wow, it must be like rush hour traffic.
Yes, man's brain is filled with signals.
Well, what does it do with them?
Well, they all have their special rooms to go to.
Why?
Don't ask so many questions.
The rooms are where the brain can understand the signals so that it can send signals to the rest of the body.
Jump out of the way!
Boy, that sure must take a long time.
I told you it takes a long time to tell, but it actually happens so fast that you don't even have time to think about it.
What happens when a noise gets in? Is there a noise department?
Well, let's pick a noise that we hear all the time. Traffic. When the traffic noise gets into the ear, its waves aren't very pleasant. And so the eardrum stiffens and tries not to vibrate, so that all the noise won't get in. But it can't keep it all out. And the noise that does get in irritates whoever owns the ear. Causes confusion because it gets in the way of lots of signals zipping around those hallways.
You mean there's no room for noise?
If the noise is louder than the traffic, and it goes on for a long time, it not only causes confusion, but other things like anger, sleeplessness, lack of concentration, distraction, and sometimes insanity.
Quiet!
Because those loud noises get past the eardrum with no trouble and really cause chaos in the brain and also the inner ear. And if the hearer doesn't try to get away from it, his ears will be permanently damaged.
That's terrible. What can we do about it?
One thing you can do is pay attention to the warnings. If you hear a singing or a ringing in your ears when you are near a loud noise, like if you're too close to music, or a snowmobile, even fireworks, guns, that means you should stop or get away before you hurt yourself forever.
But where can we go? Noise is coming from everywhere.
Yeah, and we aren't the ones that are making it either.
Well, I'm afraid you've got a problem. Unless you can somehow convince whoever it is that's making that noise to stop.
That's no good. I tried talking to one guy, and he acted like he never even heard me.
Why was that?
Well, he said he needed his job. He didn't care if his job created all the noise in the first place.
Do you think he knows anything about his ears?
He couldn't care less.
Okay, I have an idea.
What?
Tell him that his children's ears are going to be damaged forever, and if he continues to make noise, eventually all the kids in the world will be deaf.
He'll never listen to me.
Why not?
Well, I think all the people making noise will never stop. It's impossible to talk to them because they're already deaf.
Gee, you sound like there's no hope, Dad.
Well, let's look on the bright side. Who needs ears? What if we were all deaf? Maybe we'd all be perfectly happy without ears. We won't have music, or lovely sounds, or talking, or jokes. Who knows? It might be a great life.
Television would be a waste of time. Of course, people could still talk, but nobody would hear.
Yakety yak 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 to yak attack. A car is coming.
Yeah, nice weather.
Oh!
And so, who discovered puffed wheat?
1945.
Us rabbits have a lot of enemies. We need our ears. Every animal depends on hearing to warn them. Man depends on his ears even more. Sound can be nice, but man goes too far with noise for pleasure. So much noise, now it's a problem. Where there's men, there's noise. They have to come up with a plan to stop.
I hate the idea.
Why?
I'll be out of a job